Is the Dagda a sex god? Well, Dagda agus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan, the Irish Pagan School. And I won't tell you how many times I've tried to record this video and gotten tongue-tied and stumbled over myself because it's a difficult topic to talk about in some ways. So, to jump right to an answer, I guess, and an unpopular opinion, the answer, not hard to say, no, I don't think the Dagda is a sex god. Now, that seems to go against a lot of what the common understanding of Irish gods are, or many gods are, and the role and function of sex when it comes down to deities needs to be looked at rather differently to how we view things. Now, I'm not saying that Dagda isn't a god of fertility, isn't a god of abundance, isn't a god of like hospitality, home, and hearth. I'm not saying that at all, because he 100% is. But fertility doesn't always mean sex. But also, it doesn't have to not mean sex. But just because a deity is associated with or has sexual interactions in our lore doesn't make them a sex god. So, but wait, like John, it's in the mythology. The Dagda has sex with Boann and they give birth and bring forth a child by the name of Angus. Yeah, but that's not the only thing. He has a relationship with Bowen. He stops the sun moving in the sky so that 9 months pass in a day, so he can have his relationship with a consenting partner. Let's be fair, let's put that in there. Bowen was very much interested in the relationship, and he came away bringing Angus away from their union. But wait, he also has sex with the Morrigan. Okay, but if we look at this section of the lore and the mythology, I don't even think what's happening there is about sex. To me, it reads a little bit more like a ritual interaction between two very powerful deities, which I probably should explain in a little bit more detail. But to take a deity and to try and bring them down into one particular aspect of who and what they are and what they do is a problem that we see time and again in the Irish culture, in the people approaching Irish deities. They get a misconstrued view because they're only looking at it in one particular way. Or worse, you get people who want to behave in a particular way, claiming that it has something to do with their spirituality, with their pagan path, or with the particular god that they work for. Now, I don't know many people who worship the ancient Greek gods, but if someone went out of their way to say that they were a worshipper of Zeus and therefore they had to go around and non-consensually touch people, I'd have a problem with that. And so everyone should have a problem with that. I was contacted by someone in our community who was hesitant about trying to explore information around the Dagda or connection with the Dagda in any way, shape, or form, because the only interaction they'd had with any person claiming to be associated with the Dagda was a Dagda declared an individual in their local area, local pagan community, who was acting like a creep, was acting like a predator, who was going out of his way to like ingratiate himself with young female presenting individuals. And when challenged, it was like, well, it's the god that I work for because I'm a Dagda person. I can't tell you how annoyed, how angry I am having read that, and how fucking livid I personally believe my God would be for people trying to portray non-consensual acts against his name. Now, it's all just perspectives, but I'm sorry, if you were using your spirituality to justify inappropriate behavior, then it's not about your spirituality at all. It's just you wanting to be inappropriate and trying to find anything that will allow that. So, in order to pull back the misinformation here, to tear it all apart and break it right the way down, that's why I'm doing this video. The Dagda isn't about sex. He is a god of abundance. He is a god of fertility. He's a god who sets the seasons in the right order so that the seed planting can happen, the growing can happen, the harvest can happen, and then the rest period can happen. Fucker changes the seasons by playing music on his harp. He's the keeper of one of the four treasures of the Tuatha Danann, a cauldron from which no company goes unsatisfied. It's not a sword that slays people. It's not a spear that protects people. It's not a stone that like declares sovereignty. He has the cauldron that brings people satisfaction. All of the stories that we have around him are about caring for his people. Now, he's not perfect. He doesn't do it right all of the time. One of the stories that associates him with sex is his relationship with Boann. So he stops the sun moving for 9 months. So 9 months passed in a day. So he can engage in a consensual relationship because Bowen was consenting and very much interested in a tryst with Dagda. And so they have their relationship, and then he comes away from that bearing the child, who is Angus, the unique force of vigor, born of their relationship. So yeah, he has sex. There is a child. There is a partner involved, Bowen in that instance. But does that make him a sex god? No, it just makes him a person who is engaging in a consenting relationship with someone else. But wait, hold on. There's the other story in the mythology where he leaves the meeting of the men of the goddess to go and find out where the Fomorian invasion is going to happen. And so he goes to seek the Morrigan. And specifically in the lore, it says that he comes upon her where she is standing on in the ford of the River Unshin and she's washing herself. And it says he stops and he waits and watches her. And this is where we get a description of the Morrigan standing with one leg on one side, another leg on the other side, undoing the tresses of her hair and washing herself. So is he acting like a creep? Is he acting like a perv watching the woman washing herself? Or do you think for one fucking second the goddess of prophecy is not going to know that he's there? That entire section doesn't read like sex to me. That entire section of the lore reads like a ritual. Standing in liminal space. She's engaging in a cleansing ritual, and he is waiting. He is waiting for his moment to be invited into that ritual, to be brought forward into the moment, to seek the information that he needs from a goddess of prophecy. Then it says they lie down in the ford, and they couple there, and the ford is named the bed of the couple. Then after doesn't say they get it on, they have sex. It's a raunchy old affair. The entire thing reads like a supplicant coming to someone to seek information who just happens to be his wife because it is the bed of the couple. They are a wedded couple. And so, like an expression of physical intimacy between two people who are wedded. Okay, they had sex. Does that make him a sex god? The Morrigan had sex with him. Does that make her a sex goddess? Absolutely fucking not. There is no, like, the sex isn't even important in that. Now, there's an extra story here that I definitely going to bring in. It's not sex, it is non-consensual. And this is why I'm so fucking livid. And I would personally believe that Dagda would be livid for people acting in non-consensual ways because he is a survivor of a non-consensual sexual interaction. John, what are you saying? How can you prove any of this? Right, let's go into the mythology. Let's go back to that story. The Dagda leaves the meeting of the men of the goddess. He goes and engages in a ritual with his partner, the goddess of prophecy, to find out where the Fomorians are going to land. They then couple together in the forge because they are a wedded couple. He leaves there and he goes to the place where she has told him the Fomorians are landing. What follows in that part is him going in disguise, dumbed down. He wears like peasant garb with like a rough spun shirt that doesn't really cover his form. He has like horse-haired leggings wrapped around his feet with the horsehair on the outside. It's described as peasant garb. And this guy is a fucking king. This guy is like the druid. He in the meeting of the men and the goddess. Nuad is there, Gwivnu's there, all of these very powerful sorcerers and druids promising to rain fire from the sky and call the mountains to throw their rocks at, the Fomorian invaders and hide all the rivers. They all promise that, and Dagda says, "Leave it to me, I got that." And they're like, "Yeah, because you're the good god of druidry." And the description we get later, where he's wearing peasant garb, is he a peasant god? No, he's a god who knows what he needs to do to have people underestimate him. And so he goes into the Fomorian camp to try and prevent the war from being justified. They offer him hospitality, but it's rough hospitality. They dig a trench in the ground, they fill it full of porridge. He's expected to eat the entire thing, or he insults their hospitality and justifies their invasion. He does. He eats the entire thing, and it's presented in the story as this horrible, like he's so gluttonous that he's eating all of this food all the time. The why is what has to be looked at. He's trying to prevent a war. And so he scrapes the gravel out of the bottom of the pit and he's like, "That was a really fine meal. Thank you very much." And it says his body is bloated and distended from the volume that they had provided for him. And he can barely stand up. He has to roll over on his stomach and then stagger himself up to leave the camp, which he does. But it's not over. And this is where things get worse for him, because as he's leaving that camp on the way out, he meets a person who is known in the lore simply as the daughter of Indech. Indech is the Fomorian warlord he has just left, who has put his daughter out down the road to try and again insult the Dagda, cause justification, find some way of him giving insult or harm to her so that she can go back to Indech and Indech can justify his invasion. And so she pretty much puts upon the Dagda, literally kicking the shit out of him. Literally. It says that like she kicks him so much he voids himself, he voids his bowels, he throws up everything he had consumed, and then she forces him to carry her on his back, demeaning him, like, destroying dignity. And so he, in order to not have a war, to not insult this daughter of the warlord invading, he does. He accepts the abuse, accepts the physical abuse, and he carries her on his back. Then she pushes it as far as someone possibly could fucking push it. And I don't feel bad I don't feel bad for Indek. He's the fucking asshole who's invading here. I feel bad for the daughter of Indek because we don't even know her name. But it reads to me like she's put out there by her dad in order to do whatever she can do to justify an invasion, and that leads to a non-consensual sexual interaction in a fort. She demands sex of the Dagda. He's like, I'm not up for it. Like, I'm terrible. And she's like, no, you have to. And so he does. He has sex with her in a fort, which is a mimicry of story. He meets with his beloved partner. He has a union of ritual and interaction with his wife in the ford of the River Unshin. But then later on, he's put in this place of sexual abuse by the daughter of Indek at the behest of Indek. He is a victim of non-consensual stuff, interaction, and if you want to put the word rape on it, yeah. And so he engages in a sexual act with her in order to not justify the war by insulting her. At the end of which she's like, listen, don't go to war with my father. You'll lose. He's like, I have to. It's the service to my people. She goes, I will stop you. I will be a rock in every river and I will be a tree in every pathway against you. And the Dagda says, then every rock will bear my foot on it and every tree will have my axe mark on it because I have to do this for my people. At the end of which, having gone through all of this form of abuse and horror and physical abuse, mental abuse, and emotional demeaning, as well as sexual abuse, in the daughter of Indek has nothing else she can do, and she says, "Okay, well, when the battle comes, I will side with you and your people." Now, is that because she had really good sex with the Dagda, or is it because she saw a different example of leadership? She saw a different example of masculinity. It wasn't warmongering. It wasn't manipulative. It wasn't abusive. It took the abuse. It endured the harm for a greater purpose of care to the community. So is the Dagda a sex god? No. Does the Dagda have sex? Yeah. We don't know who the mother of Breege is, but she is squarely daughter of the Dagda, and she absolutely lives up to his energy in so many ways. We have stories of Kermit, his son, and the grandsons like of the Dagda, McCool, McHector, McGren, the children of Kermit. We have Aid, another son of the Dagda. Like there are many children, Midir is said to be. There's Anya, daughter of the Dagda. There are many children of the Dagda, both of his own progeny, but also foster children. He is a big dad, which means he does engage in sexual interactions. But does that make him a sex god? No. And anyone who tries to justify their sexual appetites or sexual interactions in any way by saying it's a Dagda thing, no, I'm sorry. You are absolutely just being a creep. You're being an abuser and you're cloaking it all of your horrible behavior in some form of made up ideology. I'm sorry. My anger here has made my energy very directed and my words very abrupt. Thing is, I'm not wrong. The truth of everything I said is in our mythology. It's there. The stories are correct. Yes, the Dagda has sex, but that doesn't mean he's all about sex. Fertility is not just about sex or bringing forth children. the relationship of fertility of the other world with the land of Ireland. Ireland is an abundant, beautiful place in all of our mythology because the kings, those who rule in Ireland, are in right relationship with the goddesses who represent sovereignty, who represent the other world powers in our world. It's about justice. It's about compassion. It's about community. It's about kingly judgment. As I've learned from my partner, there's this thing known as the fear flaha, the sovereign's truth, which means that if the sovereign is acting in truth, acting in honor, acting in just ways, then everything goes right. Everything is abundant, everything is beautiful and peaceful and brilliant. So that is the Dagda. That is his abundance. That is him setting things in right order, giving right justice, giving right hospitality, and looking after people. And yes, sacrificing himself at times to do so. So, unpopular opinion, no, the Dagda is not a sex god. And all the stories about, oh, well, he has a massive penis and like his clothes don't fit him and his penis is hanging out of his clothes. That's because his body's distended because he ate all of that porridge in order to not have a war. Like, what about it? And the whole Laura Gmor. Laura Gmor is the words, the great club, which is said to be the club of the Dagda that would bring life with the gentle end and take life with the rough end. But Lorag Mór is a euphemism. Lorag is a euphemism for penis. And so like that's where the whole big penis thing comes in with the Dagda as well. But Lorag is also a word for example. And more doesn't mean always big, it also means great. And so maybe the story about the magic staff isn't less about life and death, a magic stick that brings people back from the dead, and more about on Lorag Mór, a great example of what fatherhood should be. A father who looks for some way to care for his child and to bring the child back to life. And then when the child is brought back to life, the child calls out the Dagda for his rough behavior and his poor behavior. And the Dagda takes on board and learns that lesson himself whilst taking up this power over life and death. I'm going to add one piece of information here, and this is a personal story for me, which I have not told publicly at all ever. Very few people know about it because they were at the event in question. They were at the Harvest Festival, which was held in Connecticut and organized by an amazing friend of ours. I had an experience and I just laughed it off as a joke. When I expressed that experience in my discomfort, I was still uncomfortable. I expressed the experience to, my partner Laura and to the organizers of the event, and they were shocked. I was wearing this t-shirt, which says the Dagda do the work. I was queuing to get breakfast one morning at this conference, and someone, a person standing beside me, a presenter and speaker at this event. Yeah, no, I'm gonna name it. I'm gonna name it. Ellen Everett Hopman decided to compliment me on my t-shirt, and I was like, "Thanks very much. Yeah, it's the god I work for." And she's like, "Well, you have a really Dagda energy about you," and I was like, "I appreciate it." And she goes, "And that's before I've seen your penis." This pagan presenter at this conference felt it was okay to quip to me about seeing my penis. I was like, ha ha ha, yeah, tag the penis thing. I get that joke. Yeah, great, cool. I hastily took my food and went out and sat down, ate my food in silence, and it was, I think it might have been John being quiet that really caught people's attention. Like, why is John not making noise? And Laura asked me, and I was like, oh, well, funny story. Yeah, this, yeah, no one laughed. No one laughed. Everyone was shocked. And they were like, John, think of it from another point of view. What if that was some elderly pagan man deciding to turn around to a young female presenting person and be like, well, I haven't seen your tits yet. So don't come and talk to me about Dagda people are sexually like machismo, like, no, at all. I've been on the receiving end of abusive commentary, just because I wear a t-shirt that says Dagda. The email I received from someone who had horrible experiences because someone claimed they were living their God values, living the Dagda's values by acting like a perv. Any other male presenting individual who is out there in the world thinking they can justify their predatory, sexually exploitive, non consensual behavior because they're pagan and that's what their God would do. From me to you, if you are that person, you're garbage. If you have experienced that person in your life, if you experience that kind of narrative, I'm sorry that you have had that experience, but know that you're not alone. I've had that experience too. So what we need is a better narrative. What we need is better information. What we need is to pull away all of this information. The Dagda is not a sex god. Park your penis references all you fucking want, or come and talk to me about it, and I will educate you very sternly around who and what the Dagda is. Because we can do better, and we deserve better. I don't see many people going around worshipping Zeus because we know Zeus is a rapist. Odin, yeah, sexually manipulative. Absolutely goes in and coerces Angrboda. A giant pretends to be a giant to woo her so he can gain access to a cauldron, which would give him the powers of bardistry and prose. Oh, but the Dagda pervs on the Morrigan, or the Dagda approaches a ritual moment and waits for his time to be invited in by a goddess of prophecy. Again, the idea that she wouldn't know he's fucking there. She was absolutely fucking waiting there. Because the start of that line, actually, now that I remember it, is the Dagda kept the property at Glenetchin, near the River Unshin. He was going to his place in Glenetchin by the River Unshin, and she was there in the River Unshin. She knew he was coming because she knew what was going on. Anyway, I feel like I'm a little bit wound up about this, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe people need to see that, what is right and what is wrong. So, yeah, if you say you've had a poor experience with someone in pagan community or even non-pagan community, I will believe you. If you say males are acting predatory around you, I will believe you. It's a truth. I did a video on it, zero statistics in Ireland showing that, yeah, women are more likely to be abused, to be beaten up, and to be sexually assaulted than men are. Men do get sexually assaulted too, but in both of those cases, the people who do the sexual assault aren't women, they're men. Men rape men. The problem is men. So hopefully, by challenging the narrative of, oh yeah, big macho gods who have to have sex to justify their, it's all crap. Fertility and abundance isn't about sex. It's about hospitality. It's about right judgment. It's about care for the environment, care for your community. So no, the Dagd is not a sex god. If you disagree with me, I'm happy to have a discourse on that. I really am. If you have a different opinion, if I'm missing some piece of lore here, please let me know in the comments below. Shoot me an email, send me a message. I'm happy to have a chat about it. But maybe sit and think about it. Why do we need to have a god of sex? We don't. There are much more important things to be focusing on. And also, don't come at me with the Morrigan is a sex goddess because she has sex as well, or the Boann's daughter, where she appears as the beautiful woman to Cuchulainn. That wasn't about sex. That was testing him, which he failed, by the way. The relationship with sex in ancient Irish society was much more different to what it is now. It wasn't as restricted. It was something that people in any level of society could just choose to engage in. There's records of women of privilege within a certain level of status being able to offer the friendship of their thighs just because they wanted to, just because they chose to. And it wasn't looked down on. It wasn't like, oh, how terrible, blah, blah, blah. There are relationships in our lore. The Brehon Emmet, the law, the ancient laws of Ireland talk about a union for a year and a day, where you'd be a wedded couple for a year and a day, and that was it. You'd start at Bealtaine, you'd agree to live together in all capacities, at the end of which you then decide if you want to carry on being a couple or if you want to just part your ways. The association with sex was much, much different to a lot of our hang-ups and our mentality here today. But what isn't and should never be misconstrued is the core element of consent. The Dagda and Boann had a consenting relationship. The Dagda and the Morrigan, consenting relationship. The daughter of Indech and the Dagda, not a consenting relationship. I don't even think she consented to that, but she was forced into it by her father, which is my read on the mythology. If someone disagrees, please have a read of it and come and talk to me about it. I feel like I'm going to go around in the circle again if I don't take a deep breath and settle this off. Thank you very much for joining me for this chat. I'm sorry if I've upset anyone. I'm sorry if I've triggered anyone. That was never my intent, but I accept that that might have been the impact. What I will say is we deserve better from our pagan leaders, from our pagan elders, from our cultural leaders, cultural elders. We deserve better. We deserve better leadership. We deserve better kingship. We deserve better elders. We deserve better than pervy people justifying their behavior by cloaks of mysticism or paganism. Oh, don't come at me with like divine masculine, divine feminine, like ritual couple kind of stuff either. Or actually, if you'd want to, do. And I will definitely sit down and have that conversation with you as well, because that's exclusionary in so many ways. It's terrible. What I will say is thank you very much. There's a free class on the Dagda at the Irish Pagan School. Go to irishpaganschool.com/free. Whole lot of free classes. There's one there specifically. It's called Dagda, Domestic Deity and Hearth Hero. There's many other classes on him there. So I would recommend looking those up. I talk about him all the time. Search the YouTube here, go into our podcast, or go to irishpagan.school/free for a year's worth or more worth of free resources so you can do yourself the gift of learning more. Because when you know more, you're empowered. When you know the information, you can spot when people are abusing that information. So look after yourself. Take care. And until next time, slán. Goodbye.